Thomas Dunn is a town council member in Leesburg, Virginia, and at a public hearing on the issue of setting up a diversity commission, he debated a leader of the local NAACP chapter, and his comments are hilarious. So the NAACP head, in response to a previous speaker at this event, said, quote, "If the government hadn't intervened, I would still be a slave in the field picking cotton." So the speaker was saying how the government shouldn't get involved in stuff like this in regards to a diversity panel, setting up a diversity panel. And this guy's like, what are you talking about? If you look at the history of it, the government getting involved on different racial issues was the best thing they could have done. What do you think brought an end to slavery? What do you think brought an end to Jim Crow and segregation? It was the federal government saying to the state government, you don't have states' rights to take away the rights of black people. No, they have rights, and we're going to enforce that. So this guy's like, what are you... No. Sometimes you need the government to step in and drag people into being a more modern society. So Dunn responded to this, quote, "Shame on you, Mr. Thompson, for throwing slavery into this discussion. There are people who feel that government is supposed to be the answer to everything. And Mr. Thompson, I don't believe that government freed our slaves we had in this country. That was an evil that this country had. It was the hand of God touching the hearts of man that freed those slaves. Any shortfalls that we have in how we handle different cultures and races, that's holding yourself up too high, because that has to come from God." God freed the slaves. It wasn't the government. It wasn't the North. It wasn't Abraham Lincoln. God freed the slaves. God. Well, you know, that's interesting because Thomas Dunn is, of course, a devout Christian. And if there's one thing I know for sure about Thomas Dunn, and as this quote demonstrates, he believes in the Bible. I mean, that's his thing. That's his core. It makes up his identity and his belief system. So naturally, when he says something like, well, slavery is abolished because of God, naturally there's, some backup for that in the Bible, right? Interesting, because what we have here is what the Bible actually says about slavery. This is Thomas Dunn's God that he speaks of. Quote, "However, you may purchase male or female slaves from among the foreigners who live among you. You may also purchase the children of such resident foreigners, including those who have been born in your land. You may treat them as your property, passing them on to your children as permanent inheritance." Does that sound like the Bible is anti-slavery? Does that sound like God is anti-slavery? And by the way, that's from Leviticus 25, lines 44 to 46. Oh, we have some more here from Exodus 21, lines 7 and 8. Quote, "When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years as the men are. If she does not please the man who bought her, he may allow her to be bought back again." So not only are people selling their daughters into sex slavery, but also they're saying, if you don't please the man I sold you to, he can get rid of you, and I'll have to buy you back. Hashtag morality. That's what I see here. Here's another one from Exodus 21, lines 20 to 21. Quote, "When a man strikes his male or female slave with a rod so hard that the slave dies under his hand, he shall be punished. If, however, the slave survives for a day or two, he is not to be punished, since the slave is his own property." Oh, see, this is what the Bible viewed on the issue of slavery as a liberal comment. They're like, oh, look, if you kill the slave from immediately hitting them and they die right away, yeah, we're going to have to punish you a little bit. But if you beat the shit out of your slaves and then they die like 2 days later from like internal bleeding or something, it's all right. You're not going to get punished because it's your property. And who's to say if you really killed them by beating the shit out of them? Open-minded, I see. Interesting. Now, whenever we bring this up, what do some people inevitably say? They go, well, that's the Old Testament, and you're being disingenuous because you and I both know the New Testament is nothing but good stuff. Now, some of the stuff in the New Testament, in fact, a majority of the stuff probably in the New Testament is hippie Jesus. Is peace, love, bro, the high taxes on the rich and stuff, fuck the rich, bro. Yeah, that's a lot of what it is. But there are some other things in there that people don't like to talk about that are pretty bad as well. So, what does the New Testament say about slavery? Quote, Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with deep respect and fear. Serve them sincerely as you would serve Christ. Doesn't quite sound like it's anti-slavery, does it? And we have Timothy 6, lines 1 to 2. Christians who are slaves should give their masters full respect so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. If your master is a Christian, that is no excuse for being disrespectful. You should work all that harder because you are helping another believer by your efforts. Teach these truths, Timothy, and I encourage everyone to obey them. So here we have a conservative lawmaker lecturing somebody in the NAACP about how, no, it wasn't the government and it wasn't hard work and people in the North who cared about trying to free the slaves and they did that. No, wasn't that at all. It was God who did it. Even though my God, who I just quoted to you, said the exact opposite.